Hi, I'm Kara, and this is Amy, and we're with EAA Radio, and we're here at the EAA Museum in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And we are going to be doing a broadcast from here, and we're going to be filming it. And Amy, tell them what the show's about.
Well, we're going to have Chris Henry and Christy Bussey continue talking about the B-17 ride program. And we're also going to have Christy stay on with us and Emily Nowak. And the four of us are going to talk about getting our pilot's licenses and what kind of an experience we've had so far. So it should be a great show.
It's going to be really good.
Welcome back to Air Raid Radio. This month we are taping at the EAA Museum in Oshkosh, and we're specifically in the Weeks hangar, right? There's a lot of noise going on as we've got volunteers working on the aircraft, but we're super excited to be here.
Yeah, and like last episode, we have video to accompany our podcast, so
you can check that out on our Facebook page.
Yeah, we'll have a link too, so if you'd rather watch and listen, you can see us sitting here talking instead
or you
of
can
just
do
listening.
both.
You can do both. Same thing.
You're going to watch autographs after the show.
With us today, we've got Christy Bussey, Chris Henry, and a little bit later we're going to have Emily Nowak with us. So it's going to be an exciting show. We're super excited. I keep saying that. We're super excited, guys.
So are we.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
I can see Emily. She's excited too.
In that terrifying kind of way. Yeah.
She's waiting in the wings to replace Chris once we...
Literally in the wings, yeah.
She's sitting next... Now I have to describe for the people not watching the video. She's sitting next to a tri-motor wing that is being worked on.
Yeah.
She is waiting in the wings.
I think we're going to get a picture of it, so we'll post it on Facebook too. But.
So... I recommend listening to the last episode because it was awesome.
This will make a little bit more sense.
And it makes a little more sense because we're just going to jump right into where we left off the last time. But first, a word from our sponsors.
Take it away, Kara.
Right. So our sponsors for the show are Hemlock Films and Spotlight Business Solutions. And Hemlock Films are going to be having a screening of Beyond the Powder in March 5th at the Cleveland Public Library in Cleveland, Ohio, March 11th at the Women in Aviation International Conference in Nashville, and March 12th at the Museum of the National Air Force in Dayton, Ohio, which I'm super excited for.
Yeah. Are you going to each one of those?
Yes, we will be at each of them.
Mm-hmm. So you guys can sign copies or just talk about it with people if they want to get more information.
You can buy the DVD or the Blu-ray, and
can we all
signing.
be groupies and
you
just
can
follow
be
you guys around?
I've been for years.
That sounds fun.
Come on, guys, let's go.
And my lovely producer, Adam. I mean, kind of start because guys do that all the time about their ladies.
My
lovely producer, Adam White, is going to be there as well. So we will be talking about the movie and doing Q&A, and we will have a representation from Air Race Classic there with us to talk about the actual race and for all those awesome questions because it's full of details. But and you're going to have a lot of questions you won't have a lot of questions, but you're going to want to talk about it more once it's over because it's pretty cool race. And for those that don't know about it, it's the movie's about first women's air race in 1929 and the people who still race it today as the Air Race Classic. And you can check out our Beyond the Powder Facebook page for more details on those, or beyondthepowder.com. And there will be PBS airings during this year's race. And Adam and I will be at the Missouri stop with KMOS PBS.
We can probably post a link for that on the Facebook page too.
Yeah,
as it comes up. I think that'll be fun.
Yep.
Tag along.
Yeah, so it will be airing nationally maybe in June. We're still working out the details, but and it's all different. Every station operates differently, so it's on different times, different days across the country. So you'll have to check your local listings. And also, Restorers Season 1 is available on DVD and Blu-ray on FlightCinema.com and Amazon. So check that out, because I know a lot of people have been asking for a long time when that's going to be actually available to see. It's available that way, and distribution is happening now, so we will find out what channel it will air on soon. So
we'll keep everybody up to date with that too, as far as dates and stuff.
So that's the business that we have to get out of the way before we can start talking.
Now on to the fun stuff.
Yeah.
No.
Let me brush through that so we can get on to talking about other things, especially since we just did this. All right, so Amy, I'll let you start.
Me?
Yeah. Oh, well.
So
yeah. Never mind. I'm gonna cut you back off.
I'm gonna let you start.
Never
No,
mind.
I'm
I
not. Just
remember
shut
what
up.
I wanted.
It's over.
Good job.
She does
Good
this
job.
to me all
You
the
did a
time.
great job, Amy. Now step aside.
Let the grown-ups handle
That one
this.
syllable will be enough for the show.
Should I take off my hat? Is it the hat?
So, picking up from the last episode, we were talking about the B-17 and the ride program, and Christy is in charge of the logistics and the air tours, and Chris work with the veterans, correct?
Right.
And one of my favorite stories that you've told me, and I'd like to talk to you about, is the B-17 ride you did where you assembled the crew members. So, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I started working here in January of 13. So I've been here for about a year, and I've been a B-17 nut since I was a kid, and I was friends with Christy from that point already, and got to talking with some friends about how fast we were losing our World War II veterans, and we started thinking about, would it be even possible to try to put together a full crew, to have somebody that, well, first we actually tried to see if we could find a full crew that was still alive, who all flew together. And sadly, that does not exist. The most we could find off of one crew was 3 guys that had flown together. It's just, the numbers are just dwindling. So we said, well, can we put together a full crew of somebody representing the bombardier, navigator, pilot, co-pilot, all the way back to the tail. And I sort of pitched the idea. Christy to Christy. Christy was supportive and thought it was a great idea. We went to the management at EAA, and they were like, well, go ahead and run with it and see what we get, see if we can do this. It took about 3 months of calling and just trying to find if these people were still alive. Worked with the 8th Air Force Historical Society, trying to find folks that were, still here. And you were actually calling people's houses and just saying, is this, Jim Smith? Is this the Jim Smith that was a bombardier in World War II? And going through that.
They're like, who's calling?
Yeah, and sadly, a lot of them was his widow or kids that he's no longer with us. The fun part is when you would get somebody, and this older gentleman would come to the phone, and would say hello, and I'd say, well, I'm looking for Fred Zerbakken, and well, I'm Fred, I was like, well, were you the Fred that was the ball turret gunner in World War II? And, yeah, that's me. And we'd say, well, I got a nickname in membership at this point. They were calling me Elwood because I'd say, well, we're putting a crew back together. And so it sort of got, they were like, okay, and the tone of the voice would change. The older gentleman that came to the phone and answered, when you said we're putting a crew back together, the next words were in a younger, almost a little bit of a tone, and where are we going? What's going on? They wanted to know more, and it was pretty amazing. We did find 10 vets, all B-17 crew members, 3 of which had actually flown on the same crew together during the war at certain points. So, in the movies you see a lot where the crews all flew, the same guys, same 10 guys, same airplane. Didn't really happen. They shuffled around a lot. People would get sick. They'd substitute in. But there were 3 guys that had indeed flown in World War II together. But it was a struggle, even leading up to that, to the date in April we were going to do it. We had 3 different co-pilots. Betty Strophus at one point was going to be our co-pilot, and she fell. We had another co-pilot before her who passed away. So, it was tough, and it was always changing, and I think 5 or 6 different times I'm like, I got all 10, and then somebody would not do well. So we worked with the Military Veterans Museum down the road here. They have a bunch of military vehicles. The local police department here in Oshkosh to get an escort to bring them from the museum over to here. And everything was lined up. Christy had all the logistics here lined up so that we could have a little ceremony afterwards. The U.S. Army actually attended and presented an award to each of them. And so it was really, really a cool setup. Now, once again, I'm from Pittsburgh. In April, springtime happens there. In April here, winter part 2 happens.
Still
Winter part 2.
Yeah, so, and it snowed. And it was like, it was in the 20s. And we're just like, oh.
Sitting there with the hangar door open, waiting.
Yeah. And it's like, oh,
please stop
gosh.
snowing.
Yeah. So I didn't sleep at all the night before. I was up at like 3 a.m. and cursing at the weatherman. And that was on a Monday. So on Friday, when I left work, everybody was healthy, everybody was set. But, you know, these guys are, the youngest member of the crew was 90, so things could change in a couple days, you know. So I wasn't sure if even all 10 were going to show up, you know.
Right.
And the next morning, we met in the lobby of the museum, and all 10 vets did show up.
Wow.
And you know, you're sitting there, and even if we did nothing else, you know, we had 10 vets together, which was incredible.
Yeah.
We didn't think that the military vehicles would show up, so we just said, well, we have a nice warm van, we'll bring them over in. And in through this line of snow comes these olive drab trucks and Jeeps, and these guys did bring them out. And they pulled up in front of the museum, and they said, you know, we'll wash them later. For these guys, we bring them out. And I said, well, that's cool, but it's 30 degrees, and these are open air Jeeps. You know, it's like the veterans will get into the warm stuff, you know, and they'll at least get to see the Jeeps. And we go outside, and the veterans were like, we're going in the Jeeps. You know, they said, it wasn't warm in England either, you know. Two of them actually tried to pile onto the hood of the same Jeep.
That's awesome.
Like they used to ride out to the flight line. We're like, no. Like, and I'm like, I'm going to get fired. Like, you guys are,
We don't want you to fall off.
Yeah,
like, this could be a
exactly.
terrible, terrible thing.
And being a transplant here too, I'm a Steelers fan, and we're sitting in the lobby, and somebody comes up
I know
and
where
says,
you're going with this.
and says, hey, you know, Mike McCarthy is here. And I'm like, that's cool. Is he the weather guy? You know, and they're like, he's the coach of the Packers. You know, I'm like, oh, okay. And it turns out
I wouldn't know either.
his wife's grandfather was our bombardier. And we did not know that. We had not planned that. It was
That's
just dumb
cool.
luck.
Yeah.
So we did bring them over and got them into the airplane. Sean and Christy were watching weather. And we didn't think we were going to be able to fly. And then a hole opened up, and we were able to go flying.
Awesome.
Got them like a good 15, 20-minute flight. And they landed, and we had the fire department spray a water arch that very quickly turned to snow. You know, and
Like frozen ice.
yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And they came in. We pulled the airplane right back in how it is here. And the really interesting thing was when they got out, you know, they were telling us, they said, thank you for giving us back our airplane.
Aw.
And they said anytime we'd ever been on the B-17, it was summertime. And it was 70, 80 plus degrees. And they said today we were flying, we could see our breath. They said that's how it was in the airplane.
Yeah.
You know, brought back a lot of memories.
Yeah, because we've
great.
been told stories by B-24 guy that he's like, guns would get jammed, and the gunner would bang on it and wouldn't do anything, so he'd take his gloves off, and their fingers would stick to the gun.
Yeah.
Some guys lost their fingers, so they just jerked back and just ripped their fingers right off.
Oh.
Yeah. It was
So
pretty
it's
incredible.
cold up there.
Yeah.
It was amazing to have them here, you know, and it was.
Yeah.
Did you get a lot of good photos?
We did. We had a ton of cool photos. One of the interesting things was they got up by the nose, and we didn't really plan. We wanted to do a crew photo, and we brought them up by the nose, and they took a couple pictures, and then out of nowhere, the pilot he barked just 10 hut, and they all saluted. And we have this great picture of all of them saluting. It wasn't planned. Like, we did not have any part in that. You know, it's like, oh my gosh, you know, they just
Right.
went right back into it. So the cool thing too was when they were coming together, some of them hadn't met each other, you know, and they were sort of like, when they were introducing themselves, they'll be like, oh, I'll be your top turret gunner today, and they were sort of becoming a crew, you know, again, which is pretty neat. But,
Cool.
yeah, and the big thing of that is, it was an honor for us. It was the way we kicked off the season that year.
Yeah.
But you know, nothing, and I've talked a lot about it and things, but nothing like that happens here without a team, and it was a giant team that got that done. I mean, between us and upper management here and police, fire, and vehicle museum, I mean, it was like a lot of people that came together.
But you did all the calling to find the guys, though.
It was-
That was probably.
It was pretty fun.
Yeah.
it was,
Yeah, that sounds like a fun job to have.
yeah, it was pretty cool.
Which one of the veterans came the farthest?
They were actually all from Wisconsin.
Oh, really?
They were all Wisconsin vets.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, but a couple of them came from Milwaukee, which is about an hour 15 south.
Yeah.
So that's probably the furthest. Green Bay, it's a little over an hour.
Was finding Fred for that flight what led you to your later event
Yeah,
with Fred?
exactly.
I think you should tell them about that.
So Fred Zerbakken flew 25 missions as a ball turret gunner, 388th Bomb Group, and on on his 10th mission, he was wounded by anti-aircraft fire. A piece of flak came through the turret and actually through his leg. And he went back to the hospital when he landed. And he actually didn't know he was hit, believe it or not. He knew the turret was hit, and they got him out of the turret. And he started walking away, and they were like, "You're bleeding."
Oy.
And they bandaged him up in the airplane. So when he got down, he went to the hospital. Was in the hospital for a couple days. If you stayed in the hospital too long, you would actually be reassigned to another crew. So he actually went AWOL from the hospital to join his crew and fly a mission.
Technical
And,
difficulties over here.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. So in the process of all of this, when their war ended and they were coming home, they were destroying all their records. They were just burning stuff, and all of his records for his Purple Heart was lost. So he's a really humble guy. He turned in some paperwork to get it that was signed by his crew. The members of his crew that were in the back of the airplane that said, yeah, he was wounded. And he just thought, yeah, I'd like to have my Purple Heart. And put in a request. He never heard anything. And then by the time they got back to fulfill that, his crew members were deceased.
Wow.
So they couldn't sign some more paperwork that the government needed.
Yeah.
So we worked with the Army to replace his Purple Heart without him knowing.
That's
and,
really cool.
So we told him to come up and see the new ball turret exhibit we had, which was the exact same ball turret exhibit we had for a long time. And we had him come in, and then we presented him his Purple Heart. And so he now has his Purple Heart.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, Chris, like I said in the last episode, what you guys do for veterans, and specifically,
It's amazing.
your heart is amazing.
I
love
stand
it.
by the fact I think we have the best B-17 program out there, and I won't shy away from saying that.
You've got the heart behind it too.
Yes, we make the airplane more about the people than the airplane. The
That's what it
airplanes are
should be.
awesome, don't
Right.
get me wrong, but there's a lot of legacy, a lot of heart that goes into those airplanes.
Right,
So
they're the reason
whether it's the
for this.
volunteers,
Yeah.
the pilots, the folks that work here,
Right.
or the veterans and everything that we're putting on the airplane, I mean, that's all part of it. So
Right, yeah.
Wow.
Well, I love it, and thank you for
Yeah,
coming back
yeah,
and joining us.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
we are going to have...
I'm going to switch out with Emily.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
going to do...
Come on down, Emily.
a swap out, which we can do like a little dance
Whatever.
number, music.
Yeah, I feel like we should do a Chinese fire drill.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Emily, it's your airplane.
Oh, perfect.
Thanks,
Thank
Chris.
you, Chris. You're
Thank you.
awesome. So, hi, Emily.
Hi. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. So we're gonna switch topics a little bit. And one of the things we learned from the last episode, talking with Christy, is that she is learning how to fly, and Amy and I are learning how to fly, and you're learning how to fly.
So we thought we'd talk about learning to fly
Yeah.
and getting our pilot licenses and being women and
yeah.
just kind of the things that we're going through that people don't talk about.
Yeah. Nobody knows about this stuff. Like
They know about it, they just don't talk about it.
Well, right.
You know?
I mean,
It's hard to talk about it sometimes because you're afraid you sound silly if you talk
Yeah.
about it.
Right. So I guess we'll start. Emily, tell us what your first flight was like and why do you want to get your why do you want to get your license?
Well, everyone in my family is aviation related in some way, and I've been around them my whole life, and it's kind of like, I want to do that too. And so,
It's kind of in your blood.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm like, oh, I have to get it now just because it's airplanes, why not?
Right. And we were told that you've helped restore an airplane.
Oh, yes. 2014, I think we bought the Champ that my mom was working on for some guy, and he was planning on selling it. So I'm like, me and my friend talked, and he's just like, it would be cool, maybe we should buy it. And so I put forward the money, and he did the maintenance on it, and I helped a little bit, and we got
You
it
helped a
finished.
lot.
Well, not that much, but I mean, I guess it was a lot for me. I consider that a lot, and then we just had it flown for the first time, well, since it's been fixed, October 11th on a Sunday, so that was really cool.
You just got an award from the chapter, right?
I did.
Oh,
It
cool.
was very surprising, honestly.
That's
it was
awesome.
a little nerve-wracking because, and walking up in front of a bunch of people, and I'm just like, what do I say? Thank you, everybody. I'm just gonna go over there.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
that was kind of cool though.
Have you gotten to fly the restored airplane?
Yes, I have. I got to be the second person to go up in it after it was restored. So
That's
it
cool.
was really fun, and I really liked it. So hopefully fly more of it once the license is done, or even soloed, you know.
Yeah. What kind of airplane is it?
It's a 1946 Champ, Aranca Champ, 7AC. So
Very
many
cool.
different types.
And your mom does this too.
Yep. Well,
Yeah.
she does. Her main thing is fabric covering, so she
Which-
does all kind of fabric covering.
Behind, I don't know if everybody can see it on screen. We're gonna take some pictures of it too. But she's restoring the fabric on the airplane right behind you guys. So
Yeah.
She's
for the viewing audience.
she's extremely humble about it, but her mom and you guys are all some of the most talented fabric workers, I think,
Oh,
in all
awesome.
of
It's an art.
She's so good at it.
Yeah.
But she's
Oh,
so
that's
humble.
fantastic.
She'd never say, and she's even tentative to teach people, but she shouldn't be because you guys are so great.
Yeah.
Oh,
We're lucky to have you volunteering here and helping with that. So
Yeah.
we do
How,
our best.
how long have you been working on restoring airplanes?
Well, I mean, it wasn't like a huge thing for me, like in high school and stuff. It wasn't. I didn't do that very much, and actually, it was honestly. Hate to see it. My friend actually got me into aviation again because
Oh.
he was really big on aviation. It was his life, so it kind of like got me interested in it again. And then I'd say that's probably what got me going for my license. And I started coming to the weeks hangar with my mom, and I helped restore or cover one of the B-17 rudders, and helped with the standard and all that other kind of stuff. So it's quite fun to do when you are around. So
It's cool to work on the airplanes and then fly them because you get to see. Like for me, I'm a visual person.
Yeah.
So if you just put me in the airplane and I fly, I'm like, well, I don't understand how this works. Then I go and work on it and I put, the rudder together or help,
Right.
do something. I'm like, oh, I got it. Now I got it. Now I know why it goes this way. Like it just.
it
I
just
don't know.
clicks a little bit better because you
Yeah.
know the aircraft more than if you're just in there.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
Makes
Yeah.
it makes it a cooler experience for me.
Yeah.
A nerve-wracking experience nonetheless still at 7.2 hours in.
Yeah.
Right.
It only gets better.
How many hours do you have in?
Well, I don't really count. I mean, I do count.
You said it's kind
but-
of sporadic
Yeah,
sometimes.
it's very sporadic.
Yeah.
So as of right now, I think like 30 hours, but it's not like consistent because it would be so much time in between.
Yeah.
Right.
But now I have a new instructor, and we're flying every week, 2 days a week. So it's a
Oh,
lot
cool. Right.
more consistent, and I'm hoping that hopefully by Airventure of this year, I'll get my license.
Oh,
We'll
nice.
see.
Yeah.
good
That'd be
goal.
great.
Yeah, it's good to have a goal.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Deadline.
I've been told that the two times a week is really kind of the magic number for things
Yeah.
to kind of stick in the
Yeah.
brain. Because I'm doing once a week, and it's winter, so there was like an entire month. I think almost the month of December and most of January, like it was too cold to fly, or the weather was terrible, or it was
Cancel,
snowing.
reschedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a
so
lot of
I
that.
didn't go for a month, and then we go flying, and he's like, "So we're gonna do takeoffs and landing today." I'm like, "No, you're gonna do them, and I'm gonna go back and have some hot cocoa." No.
Yeah. I had a lesson in January, and it was, I think, 17 degrees, and then I can't remember how cold it was with the wind chill, but we were like, how bad do we want to do this?
What are you guys training in?
I'm in 152.
Okay.
I'm in a Citabria, so I'm going right into the tail draggers so that I can transition eventually over to some of the CAF's airplanes, and I want to fly the PT-22 and the L5.
Very
so,
cool.
Yeah, my goal is to do some sort of biplane. I mean, we have to make way more money so I can buy one, but I like open cockpit. Like, I like slow and low open cockpit stuff. Just, I want to cruise. Like, so,
Yeah, what about you,
when did
Christy?
you start getting training?
Honestly, I'm kind of that person who I started when I was the aircraft maintenance department's admin over here, in an experimental built RV-6A. So not the tail dragger RV, but still, it's a kind of a little Corvette to be learning in. It was very fast at first, and like you guys said, it was hard. I think it was every other week I was getting an hour lesson in or 2
You don't
hours
have the
in.
consistency.
Yeah, so you gotta learn that beginning part over again.
Yeah.
And I found for me, with work being so busy all the time, it worked really well for me to get my lessons in the morning. I seemed to be more successful in the morning than at the end of the day when I felt like all this stuff was in my mind. So hopefully in the long run I won't be a fair weather flyer, but learning, I think I am right now. So.
Right.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
I think I got to about 13 or 14 hours, accomplished the solo, which was stressful because it's,
nice.
it's that airplane being so fast when my instructor, who's the
Right.
same size as me, got out, it felt like I was in a rocket. And then I found out afterwards, I found out afterwards that the EAA museum knew, and they had been listening to me on the radio. So when it took me 5 landings to complete my solo, because there's a flight school on the field here, and they practice patterns in their Duchess for people who are going to become airline captains later. So they take much big patterns, and I was taking it.
Yeah.
So I was way out over the lake and coming in too fast twice and bouncing all over, and I was like, I'm never going to be on the ground again in my life. And when I got down and I got to the fuel farm, the tower was like, and congratulations from everyone at EAA, and I was like, oh no. Yeah. So, and then it got winter and it got cold, and then I started working with air tours, and I have a million excuses why I haven't gotten back to it.
It's easy. It's totally easy to fall in that trap and I probably have 2 hours in my logbook, because every time it's like, it's too cold, or like the flight gets canceled, or
Something happens.
we we just went on vacation, or I'm working, or it's just like, I don't want to. Like, I'm just like, I don't want to do that today.
Because you want to be focused and really, I want to be
Right.
100% there, because I care about aviation so much in the rest of my life.
No
I want to make sure I'm
distractions.
the best pilot I can possibly be and learn
Right.
everything I can learn.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And
there's a lot of pressure there too.
yeah.
There is.
Right, and I totally have that personality where it's like, I don't want to look stupid in front of my flight instructor, which is probably well, you're going to, because you don't know it. But in my head, I'm like, well, no, you told me that once. I should just know that. And
Yeah,
like,
They don't
I
expect
totally
you
hear
to
it
either.
really stresses me out.
Yep.
And I was telling her after when I did the documentary Beyond the Powder, I had to get my student's license and get I think maybe an hour or two. No, I think it was like an hour at least in my logbook, and I did a couple lessons, and I loved it. And it was springtime, so it was beautiful, and we were doing it out of Burke Lakefront, which is over the lake.
Yep,
So I was
yep.
like, this is cool. I love it. And it was a DA-88, and I was like, this plane's awesome. And now I'm doing out of a different airport, and it's a 152, and which is fine. But it's like, and it's winter, so every time I go, I'm like, oh, like this is
Yep.
just not
Go into
glamorous
your
in
big
any
parka,
way.
like,
And
put
getting
your
fuel
gloves
afterwards. I don't know
on.
if you guys call in fuel or go to the fuel farm, but I hate getting out in the cold after my flight. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
I can't even get the caps off on top of the
Yeah.
cyber. I'm like up on top of it, like,
Yeah,
dang it. And my fingers, because I can't do it with the gloves on, so my fingers get cold.
yeah.
I always found
winter's
it to be
awful.
really emotional too. If whether you had a great lesson, I'd be on a high all day, and if I
Yeah.
had a bad lesson, I felt like, oh, I can never recover from this. I need to just go
Yeah.
do it again
Yeah.
and be better.
Yeah.
Up until about, I'd say, like 1 lesson ago, I was so terrified. And I thought it was just me, because I've wanted nothing more like my entire life than to learn how to fly. Like, I want to fly. And then I'm finally doing it, and I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
It's so much responsibility.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. And I was talking to my flight instructor, who I'm very grateful that he's also a friend of mine, so I can be very candid with him and like say, all right, man, like, what the heck is this? I almost said something else. I know our producer would love it if I keep it clean.
Yeah.
So, but I told him, I said, I'm so nervous. Like, I will actually come up with reasons why I can't go, like, oh, I have a headache today. Like,
Yeah.
headache, come on, headache. You know, like,
Yeah.
I was making myself sick just thinking about it because I was so nervous and so scared. And I talked to him about it, and he's like, everybody's that way. He's
Yeah.
like, it's a huge thing. You don't know anything about it. He's like, my job is to make sure that you start doing stuff and you don't even notice it. Like, when I first started calling on the weather, I'm sorry, what did you say?
Yeah, that's
I
my
said
biggest
I was
fear is to have to.
I was
have
a
him repeat
student?
it. Yeah.
I still don't. I got nothing. I'm gonna draw a cloud.
Yeah.
You know?
Sunshine.
Sunshine. Or like even the checklist is overwhelming because it's like,
Yep.
what? I gotta check.
Like, what does that
What
mean?
does that mean?
Yeah.
You know, and now I'm like, I go through the checklist, and occasionally I forget things because of the consistency. But it's like, oh yeah, I got the checklist, and I can check weather, and I totally got that. So it's like, oh, I didn't even realize it. Maybe I can do this. So it was the best feeling in the world. The last time I did takeoffs and landings, I'm like, I can do this.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's awesome. I'm still scared.
Yeah.
I remember the
But it
first
is.
couple times, what really stressed me out in the RV was running up the engine before taking off, just doing the checks there. I was having this like vision of my feet not holding the brakes well enough and being like into the grass.
Oh, I think I don't
never
do that
being
well.
able to come back.
Yeah.
Because I'm always like, because I'm so short, and I'm like, I'm pushing the brake, right? And I'll think I'm doing it, and I'm totally not doing it. And the instructor's like, you are not on the brake.
As
like,
you start
oh,
creeping
they're like, I
forward
told
a
you to
little
put the
bit.
brake. I'm like, I am. I'm totally got my feet on there. No.
It's hard because it's one of those things. In my life, I've been an athlete my whole life, so everything's very black and white. You execute something, you know where you are in your progress. Learning to fly is different for everyone, so there's there's no perfect story to match it off of, and that's hard for me to compute in my brain. Where am I at? Where should I be at? It's different for everyone.
Yeah, and I feel sometimes I feel it's kind of lonely because you're doing it by yourself, and like you said, there's nothing to bounce that off of. Like, do you like it's like your training's different. Like all of our training's different from each other. It's not like hey, how about lesson 1? That was interesting.
Yeah.
We all had the same lesson, right?
Can we compare notes? Because I was really confused on that.
Yeah, because my first jumping back, I just started again jumping back in this winter, and
You picked a great time of year to.
well, that's the problem with being a freelancer because we work in film and television, and it's like winter is dead for us. But it's
gotta
also
take advantage of
really
it.
cold and snowy, you know, in Cleveland. So it's like I had time, not necessarily a lot of money, and it's really cold. So it's kind of been a slow going process. Like I say, like when my lesson comes up, I'm like, I don't want to get up. I don't want to go. I don't want to go. It's cold. Like I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm never gonna know what I'm doing. And it's very stressful. But yeah, like jumping back in, my flight instructor after the first lesson, she's like, oh, here's these books. So I took the books, and she's like, read chapter 3 she's like, read the chapter on turns. It's the whatever's on the FAA website, that thing.
I was never very good in school. I didn't do my homework either.
Right. And I was like, oh crap, I have to read like 20 pages before my next lesson, which is like maybe I can't remember, like it was in like 2 days, and I was like, I can't do this. And and of course all of it's like stereo instructions because I don't know any of this stuff yet, and I'm like, well, what does this word mean? And my husband's a pilot, so I'd be like, what's this? And he's like, well, and then he starts explaining things, and I'm like, okay, that makes way more sense when you just tell me, like reading it. And then the next lesson I go, and she's like, so did you read the first couple chapters? And I was like, no, you told me to read chapter 3. I was like, I was kind of confused why you told me to start at 3. But like, I mean, that's just like, I mean, you don't, like, I don't even, have you read anything?
No, so I have a very different approach because of the way that I learn. I have to do it first, and then I can go back and read it. If I read it, I'll just get overwhelmed. I won't understand it anyways, like, and then I just won't do it. So I'm getting a good base right now, and little pieces are coming. Like my instructor will send me, you know, like, I want you to read this page, or I want you to check out this video, or like we've been doing ground stuff together and going over the different, like the wind, you know, is the wind coming from this way, or is it coming from this way, and you know, at what point can we not go flying because the wind is too much, and that kind of stuff. But I haven't really dug into that portion because I want to understand what I'm doing first before I start messing up my brain with
Right.
I was the same way, and my instructor pushed very hard. There were times where I sometimes feel like the 40-year-old virgin of flying because what I do as a career, and then it's like, oh, you know, I'm a student pilot, even though I'm talking about, you know, logistics for a B-17 at XYZ airport. But so sometimes I felt like maybe he assumed I should know more, and I never really asked him. I'm gonna have to switch because he's no longer with our flying club. But he was always, I don't care about these details right now. Fly the airplane, feel the airplane. How does it feel in your butt? How you know, what are you thinking? What are you seeing? And I did like that approach. It's very different than I date someone who is actually a flight instructor at the tech, and they are more, you know, by the book, by the lesson, and I guess it just depends on what works for people. But there's good and bad for both.
Yeah, and I think sometimes you have to like find the proper instructor that works for you.
Exactly.
that
So-
you can teach you the way you need to be taught. Wow. I apologize.
So you had a couple instructors already?
Yeah, probably like 2. So I guess that's my 3rd one. But
Did you like one more than the other?
they were all good people. Like my first one I really, really liked, but things didn't work out that way. The second one I liked, but the teaching style was a little bit harder for me to learn, and I felt like he got more frustrated with me with flying.
Yeah.
And now my new one I really like, but that's because I've known him since I was like really young. So it's like
Sometimes
a
that
family.
helps, too.
Yeah. So it really helps.
You mentioned the flying club too. You guys both belong to a flying club, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the EAA one. We're lucky
Yep.
with that here.
Oh,
It's a pretty cool one.
What a great opportunity
Yeah.
to take
Oh, yeah.
advantage of.
Oh, absolutely.
More cost effective than going out and renting an airplane
So
for an
much.
hour.
So much.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And like in the last show, we talked about being the center of aviation. We have access to so many events and people and things. I mean, we're blessed to have that flying club here at part of EAA.
Yeah.
So many different, just just a wealth of knowledge between
Exactly.
everybody. Like if you have something that you don't understand, you can say, "Hey, so and so, come here. I need, to talk to you for a second."
Yeah.
That's cool. What kind of airplanes does the flying club have?
Oh, they still have the RV6 and
Yep.
the Cubby that you guys are working on today.
And then also the 172, and then we also have a Zenith that people fly.
Did you help in that build at all?
I did not. I mean, I was there like watching it, but I wasn't like there doing the build. I was working on like the Champ at the time, and
The Zenith was actually built by the EAA staff.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know
Cool.
if you guys were familiar with the 1 Week Wonder, but that was a similar activity, but then they condensed it down to Airventure. So and so now that it's in the club, people who actually worked on it here at Weeks Hangar were in the corner. They're actually flying it now in the summer and taking it to Iowa for chili cook-offs and different things. So it's pretty.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's walking the walk, I think.
definitely.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Do both of you have particular goals to get your license? Like, is there particular planes that you really are looking forward to flying, or?
Well, I mean, I'm really looking forward to flying the Champ myself.
Right.
That's a big one. Otherwise, there's a few other ones. Like, I really adore like the Christian Eagle. That's like my favorite plane. So at some point, I would like to even try flying that, or even maybe do a few aerobatics if I'm gutsy enough.
Yeah.
And I really want an acro sport too. Also, I have plans for that, and I did some ribs with that, so I'm gonna maybe start working on that as a project as well.
Oh, very
That's cool.
It's just something
You're gonna have to get your own hangar.
Yeah.
Well, we do technically have our hangar. That's where our Champ is stored at, my
Oh,
parents' hangar.
okay.
So.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's a happening place at that
Oh,
hangar.
oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Sunday
co-
morning coffee.
Yep.
Nice. So where's your hangar at? It's in Oshkosh, or?
Yeah, it's right next to the old Basler building on this side of town, so
Oh, okay.
it's pretty easy to find, and the chapter hangar. So,
Oh, yeah.
It's like 2 minutes east of here. We could get there very quickly.
Nice. Definitely. It's a fun place to be. There's usually someone always there, and everyone's welcome. So it's a very nice place to be in.
They have the best pre-Airventure get-together. Like, what's it, usually Friday before Airventure?
Yeah, something like
it's
that.
just packed, and
Oh,
everyone's
nice.
coming in from out of town, and it's a very
Cool.
cool place to sit and watch arrivals.
And yeah,
Nice.
oh definitely. And people, just talking to all the people there. We have a lot of volunteers that come, and it's just everyone has a good time.
Oh, nice.
Have you guys flown into AirVenture yet?
I
think everybody's like,
as
no,
learning,
no.
I think we learned that it's not a good idea to go dive into that
Right.
right away.
Wait till you're a seasoned
Yeah,
pilot.
because even experienced pilots have a little trouble flying.
yeah.
Yeah, it seems very nerve-wracking.
Logistically, it's kind of a
I mean, we even talk about, before the air show, they do showcase flying, and they have to work a lot with those people who are just doing simple flying in front of the crowd. It's,
Yeah.
I mean, just flying on top of that many people adds this
Yeah.
whole level
Yeah.
of complexity. And I've worked with performers and different things from being over here, and the programs that they do to help mentor those pilots, because they're the best of the best, and it's still too much for them here. So
Right.
it's a lot. I think
Yeah.
it'd be a long time before I do that.
Yeah.
Long time.
years.
Yeah.
Fucking years.
Yeah.
Unless you're
Maybe I'll let
feeling
somebody
one
else
day.
take care of it.
Yeah, one day you just wake up and you're like, I think I'm gonna do it today.
I'm gonna do
then-
it.
Or at least taxi, you know.
Yeah,
If
there you go.
airplane's over
There you
there,
go.
I will taxi. There we go.
See, I would do that. I'm like, if it's nice weather and stuff, maybe I'll just taxi the Champ over there,
Yeah.
and then I'll just camp underneath it because I
Taxi
think
it
it'd
back.
be really cool to
Yeah.
sleep underneath your airplane like everyone else does.
Absolutely.
So, I mean,
Until it
see.
rains.
Yeah.
And that's when you get the cot in the office.
There you go.
Yeah, or you just go home. With,
Right. Yeah.
Since you live really close. To
Right.
the
Yeah, you
airport,
guys live
know.
here.
Yeah, we're spoiled.
Yeah.
Lucky us.
So, Christy, is there a particular plane that you're looking to fly?
Well, my boss has been on me here at EAA for a couple of years now to finish. I want to. It's important. Like I
Right.
said, I don't know how else to put it other than 40-year-old virgin of flying. It's been so long for me that now, luckily, everyone's very respectful. The pilots here, they let me in on our operational conversations and have my input and come together with decisions. So, honestly, like what you were saying, I've had a couple aerobatic lessons, experiences in a decathlon, and
Yeah.
that's fun. Taking off and
Yeah.
landing is fun. Going fast is fun. The act of flying for me, it's a tool to get you places, and it's awesome to have that tool rather than driving or flying commercially.
Yeah.
So I don't have a huge desire for an airplane. I just want to make sure that I can speak to, my career path and speak to all the volunteers who are looking to me to lead on something that I don't necessarily have all the experience I should have with yet.
Right, and I feel that way because we do a lot of aviation documentaries, and it's like just knowing mostly what everybody's talking about. Like, it's like, because we're more in it, like, at least for me, it's like more about the history and the stories behind, these airplanes. And like, I've gleaned a lot more just by immersing myself in that environment, but so like, I'm probably a lot more ahead of somebody who doesn't know anything, who starts.
But when you do it, it's different. Once you've done it, it's very different.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So, but like, that's one of the, another reason I kind of want to do it is just so that when we're out talking to people, it's like, okay, you're a pilot, you understand what we're talking about. Because, like, my husband said he's been in like rooms where we're doing something and they're like, you pilot, and everyone's like, yeah, and they're like, okay, well, this is how the conversation's gonna go. Like, it's not like I have to dumb anything down, but like, I'm just gonna talk and you guys know what I'm talking about.
I've been out on tour where the crew decides that they're busy and they're like, you go to the air show briefing, and I'm like,
oh,
all right, it's me and all the men in their flight suits, and you're like, okay, all right, let's have you lead. That sounds good. We'll do that. And yeah, no, I hear. I've been blessed here too, just being physically here.
Yeah.
I've ridden in a lot of cool airplanes. I'm really spoiled here. And I try really hard now when we're out on tour to make sure we give everyone else. I would want anyone here to ride before me and everything because I get to be here with it every day. So
you can do it anytime you want.
Yeah.
Within reason.
Right. Hey, can you fire that up for me?
Yeah. I'm on the T6 today, guys. No.
I have that,
that would be
$60
nice.
spare money for gas.
Yeah. Right.
That's how I felt with the CAF too. I mean, I've been around it since I was such a little kid with my grandfather, and I've gotten to ride in everything. I've gotten to ride in the B-25 and the T6 and the PT-22 and the Mustang, and it's an honor. It's it's such a cool thing. And then you get somebody off the street and they're like, they've never even flown on a commercial airline.
Yep. Right.
And you just kind of go, what?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't even compute with me. I'm like, but no, just crawl in. Like, it's cool. We're gonna start up, and then you go. That's what we do.
There. Yeah. Right.
Like, what do you mean you've never been on a plane?
Right. Yeah, I guess it's like you growing because you grew up going to that hangar. So, do you remember your first flight, Christy?
I grew up in a hangar watching Mom learn how to fly, and then actually, because it can cost money, we were those EA would not like this. We were those poor people that sat on the other side of the fence and didn't pay to get in and watch the air show. And that's my youngest memories. My first flight. My first general aviation flight, I don't think I remember what it was. My first one at EAA, I think, was in the T6. So
okay.
That's not general aviation even really anymore.
Yeah.
But, the RV is where. There you go.
Right.
There you go. The RV is where I spent most of my time. I've gotten to do some stuff in the 210 whenever we have to go somewhere on a trip, which isn't a whole lot, but they're like, of course, hop in here. We're gonna do some practice. We're gonna learn.
Yeah.
So. I hope to finish in the 172 in the club. That's just to get that done and have that consistency. Because like I said, that RV can be a little fast when you're only doing a lesson every other week and having to refresh yourself.
It's a lot of airplane to keep track of.
And it's very it's very sensitive. And I helped launch the tour and got to fly in the right seat from Oshkosh to Bolingbrook, which is near Chicago. And it was very weird for me because I was doing my training at the time to put pressure on controls because the RV is so sensitive. That it was like, I can move these things and I have to do that to keep steady. Oh, okay. Yeah. So
this is
it's
new.
been different experiences. Yeah, for sure.
Emily, what was your first airplane ride?
Well, I was told that I can't remember if it was 26 or 28 days old. I was in the Ford Tri-Motor for my first flight.
I think she wins.
Wow.
But I was asleep during it, so obviously I guess I wasn't crying, so I guess that means that I
liked it.
Yeah. Enough that it put me to sleep. I think that's
the vibration probably.
Yeah. Right.
So I guess but other than that, I don't really honestly remember. I remember having a Young Eagles flight when I was really young. I'm sure I remember getting a first acrobatic flight in decathlon from a really good friend, and
Was it Bill?
Yeah, it was
He's the
Bill.
best.
He is awesome, and I just had a blast doing that. That's like one of the ones I can really remember. There's probably a lot more. I just
Yeah.
After a
bad
while.
memory here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember mine because I didn't grow up with aviation. Like I got into it. I mean, I liked airplanes because my grandfather was in a B-24, and he would tell me about it. I'm like, these are cool. Like it's cool. But it wasn't until I moved back from New York City, back to Cleveland, and I met my husband Adam, and that was our first. I guess it would technically be our first date because he's like, oh, like, because I was like, oh, I'm really into aviation documentaries, and that's how I met him. Because I was like, I want to do that. Like, if you're making an airplane movie, I want to be part of that. And he's like, oh yeah, you know, like I fly. He goes, have you ever gone up in a plane, you know, like non-commercial? And I was like, no. And he's like, well, let's go tomorrow. And I was like, okay, I don't know you, but okay.
Very trusting.
Yeah, and my friend's like, just text me if he's gonna murder you. And I'm like, well, that'll do it.
It's not gonna matter. We'll be in the air. Like there's nothing I can do about
It's
it.
gonna happen.
Right. Yeah. So I was probably like 29 the first time I got to do it, and I was like, this is fun. And like we flew up to in Ohio. There's the islands up off in Lake Erie by Cedar Point and stuff, and Port Clinton where Liberty Aviation is.
A beautiful area.
It's beautiful,
It really
and he flew me out to Kelly's Island, and we set touchdown and then took off again. And I was like, "This is cool! Like you can do this." Like, so I mean, since then we'll fly out and have lunch. Like you can put in bay, you can park it and get a golf cart and go have lunch. And I'm like, "This is great! I want to do this."
Be able to do it whenever you want.
Call that $100 hamburger.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've done that several times, but I was like, "Oh yeah, this is cool!" Like,
it's fun to be able to explore new areas.
Yeah.
In an airplane.
and I guess it just sort of was like grew from there where I was like, well, maybe I could get my license because doing our work and we've met so many people and like people will be like, oh, we're gonna go fly in this. Do you want to go? And I was like, well, yeah. Like we were at
No, I don't want to go for a ride in the B-24. That would be terrible.
Right. Like we were at a party and like everybody's like hanging out and like it was at someone's house with like a private airstrip, which was really nice. But they were, like he was flying a Waco around and he's like,
cool.
and he would land and he's like, so who wants to go fly? And I'm like, me? Like I was like, step aside, everybody. I don't care if you want to ride in it. I want to ride in it.
Do you know who I am? I'm Kara.
Like I have not ridden in that yet and I want to go. And it was awesome. And we did like a loop and like, we did the wing over and I was like, this is cool. And like,
It's very cool.
I know I've flown in other open cockpits too, and I love them. Like I get really motion sick, and I think the air helps because that's I think one of my biggest deterrents is every time I go flying, I get so nauseous that I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I doing this to myself? But I'm just hoping that it gets better.
Well, my first flight was, I guess Warbird flight was, I was about 12 or 13 in the BT-13 at the CAF, and I flew with a veteran Corsair pilot from Vietnam and Korea.
Wow.
He tried to make me sick.
Oh no.
He tried real hard to make me sick, and I am very proud to say I did not get sick. If I did the same flight now, I would so be sick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But 13-year-old me held
Took
on.
it like a champ.
I took it like a champ, and he was like, "Wow, impressive, little girl." And then from there, I was like, "Oh, this is amazing."
Yeah.
My grandfather at the time was doing the rides program for the CAF or for the local chapter, and so every time we had an air show, we would volunteer and help out, and then I always got to go on like a different ride. So I got to go on the PBY and the L5. I got all kinds of. So it's just been like from the time I was. I don't think I was ever that big. It was never that big. I was kind of a long baby, but that's a separate radio show.
But I think with the lessons, I don't know, for you guys talked in the last show about some, or maybe we talked about it off the camera, but the non-aviation friends. For me, even the little bit I've done, to be able to talk to them about my experiences, because they care about what I'm doing in my life.
Right.
So they learn about those things, and they're like, oh, I didn't know, and that's cool.
That's
and
great.
XYZ.
Yeah.
And so I think we can all have an impact no matter how far you are in your training or it's that part's been really nice.
Yeah,
to
and I
talk to
think
people about that.
one of the nice things, and this kind of just fell together with us interviewing you, because when we came here, we didn't know about Emily,
And now we do.
and now we do, and I didn't know you were getting your license too. So and we each have different experiences, and it started at different points. And but have you guys what have you found to be your biggest challenge getting your license besides finding the time to do it?
Well, so far I find the radio work very difficult, even though if I get into a routine of it, then I know it. But it's like that initial, what is he going to say next? That throws me out. And I'm just like, Okay, what did you just say? Can you repeat that like 5 times again, slowly?
Can you slow it down, please?
Slow down.
I guess that's a little nerve-wracking, just because you don't want to, like me, I don't want to upset the people in the tower. I don't want to annoy them, but you know they're on a schedule. Like, okay, come on, we gotta go. There's more airplanes.
But I didn't understand what you said.
That's my biggest. That's one of my biggest fears is that I'm not like, 'cause I'm like, I don't want to ask them to repeat it because I know that you're doing other stuff. Like, can you tell me that again? I'm like, wait, I didn't get it. So it's like you want to hear, and then I'm always like, wait, what am I supposed to say? So,
Yeah.
But what do you think?
I would say for me,
Love your ring, by the way.
oh, thank you. I wore it just for you guys.
We're gonna get a close-up shot of this later.
It's from Airventure.
We may have to go get one of those.
Yeah, and there's actually, not too expensive at all, so a good thing.
Moderately priced. I like it.
Yes. I would say for me, it's been that it has to do with my athlete background. I would think I've been very blessed to be playing sports and at a high level my whole life, and
Yeah.
I would say I'm a perfectionist in some things. So to me, learning to fly has been learning about knowing the basics, knowing how to do everything right, and then knowing that it's never going to be perfect.
Yeah.
You've set up that perfect approach, and a gust of wind comes and you change. It's
Right.
It's
You have to
been learning
adapt.
to accept that I can do everything right 100 times. It's going to be different every time because it's not perfect, and it's how you deal with those changes, how you react, how you are prepared to handle. And I think it's been like learning about myself more than actually learning to fly.
Right.
That I haven't been good at that so far. I need to learn to relax and go with the flow.
Yeah.
I also think it's kind of hard to move the airplane by yourself. If I'm
Yeah.
like out there, I'm like trying to pull at it, and I'm like, how am I, when I have to solo this?
There's only
or
one of me.
How am I gonna pull this out on my own?
I know.
It took us like, when we flew last week, it was like it was snowing, so it took us like 5-10 minutes trying to get the thing back in the hangar because
Right.
it wouldn't budge in the snow, and I'm like, oh gosh, this is gonna be horrible for me when I have
We
to do this
installed a
myself.
winch in our hangar, so all we have to do is pull out the little thing. And I mean, we still have to steer it in, but it's specifically for like when we're by ourselves.
nice.
And so you just winch it up.
Ah, nice.
And there's tape so that I can't get it wrong. I'm pretty sure they said it's not just for me, but I think it might be.
They just don't want to be mean and be like, hey.
Yeah. she
It's
needs
for
it.
all of us. No, it's not. It's for her. We've only
Yeah.
got about a minute and a half left.
Yeah.
So
So
is there anything else you guys want to tell us about flying or?
Well,
Yeah.
it's fun, and I recommend anyone trying it if it's something they're interested in.
Yeah.
because, it really is a big changer, like mind changer.
yeah.
You just look
You
at
learn a
things
lot about
differently.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
Even
yeah.
just taking your
absolutely.
first couple lessons, even if you don't have the intention to go all the way, like you said, I think it gives you a new perspective on things and learning, and just to have been able to say you've done that is pretty amazing.
Yeah, and I know a lot of flight schools offer introductory flights.
Exactly.
Like for $100 or so, and even just if you're not even interested in getting your license, it's just fun to go
Well,
do.
or find an EAA chapter or flying
Right,
club, and they'll
right.
say, heck yeah, come on, we'll take you somewhere and
Yeah.
show you a few things in the
Go
air.
up. Yeah,
I
see what it's like.
I wouldn't mind doing that. Like if I had when I get my license, I wouldn't mind, if someone wants a ride, I'll be like, hey, yeah, I'm more than
Yeah.
welcome to get you interested in this kind of stuff, because it's definitely something interesting. It's just weird seeing people who haven't ever had a flight in an airplane.
I know.
Right.
It's
Yep.
just like, well, hey, I can help you
Let's
there.
go.
Yeah.
Come on.
Why not? Let's go.
I think I would enjoy that too. Just taking somebody who's never been, because
Yeah.
the world is so different from in the air.
Yeah.
It's a peaceful place and it's beautiful and awesome, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't wait now
That
that I'm
silence
over
on
the
the
fear.
solo was the greatest moment
Oh,
ever.
yeah.
Just like the most silence I've ever heard in my life, I think.
Oh wow.
The loudest silence, I think that's
Yeah,
how
the
I would
loudest
put it.
silence.
The loudest
Yeah.
silence. I
Yeah,
like
it was
that.
just me here in the air.
Wow.
great.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that and not looking forward to that.
It's gonna be an awesome day. You're gonna love it so much.
Yeah. I guess the more I learn, the more confident I'll get.
Yeah.
But right now I'm like,
You gotta
there's
have faith in yourself.
yeah, I got a long way to go before I get there.
You and I both do.
Yeah.
So,
So,
thank you so much
Yes,
for
thank
being
you.
on the
This
show.
is awesome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
It was fun.
all right. And so everybody out there listening, we will be back next month, and check out our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Air Raid Radio.
Yep.
So we will have websites and all sorts of information for things we've talked about, so you can check out more. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for
joining us.
listening.